Kelley, and we thank you for joining us to learn what we have been learning through the Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry. We thank you for joining us this March evening. If your weather is like ours, it's a beautiful day, so to be indoors is a commitment and dedication to the Foundation, and we thank you for it. We have Mary Fates, who will be presenting for us tonight. Mary serves as our Senior Director of Programs, and Mary has been with the NFED for 10 years now, working on 11. And Mary, would you like to talk a little bit about what you do?
Well, primarily what I do is I oversee the research programs and the treatment programs at the NFED. My responsibilities have changed a little bit over the last couple of months, and now I kind of oversee all the program areas, but primarily my responsibilities fall into the research and treatment areas.
Great, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, my name is Kelley, and I am our Director of Family Support, and my job is to talk with all of you and get information to you. We have a surprise presenter tonight. We put a call in to a friend to join us, Mr. Kyle Brown, and his wife Jan are owners of Inalist. They created the software that hosts our Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry. So Mary's going to talk about some information that we've gained through the registry. I'm going to show you a couple things, and then Kyle's going to walk you through how you yourself, as members of the registry, how you can access information. Perhaps you're searching for you have a symptom and you want to know if that's related to ectodermal dysplasias, and you can pull that information out. So he's going to join us as well. Kyle, would you like to say a few things about yourself and your company?
Yeah, no, I'm just very, very pleased that we're working with NFED and all you folks, and hopefully what we're doing will provide value to you in better understanding the disorders.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. When I say surprise, I say we had a brilliant idea today to call Kyle and say, you know, we want Kyle to be involved in this because the registry is a huge project for the NFED, and Mary and I are quite proud of it because of the hours that we've spent in it and with Kyle on the phone, and we're proud of it for the number of people that have joined the registry. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mary.
Well, thanks, Kelley. I also want to thank you for joining us on the call tonight. As Kelley said, we're really very, very proud of this project, and we're proud of all of your involvement and participation to create profiles in the registry. And we could talk a little bit about how important your participation is as we go down the line. I also want to say thanks to Kyle because he is really the software query expert, and it's really been a wonderful experience working with Kyle and his company because it's really the type of relationship where we really get a lot of hands-on help when we have questions or we need help with anything. So it's really been a great working relationship. So the first slide tells you a little bit about the International Registry, but I want to give you a little history, and some of this might be repetitive to you. We launched this registry in March of 2010, which is just about 2 years ago. We are grateful for the funding that Edmer gave us. Edmer Pharmaceuticals gave us some funding to jumpstart or at least initiate the patient registry, which is something that we wanted to do for many years before we actually developed the registry. Even before the registry was launched, I'm sure Kelley and Kyle can both talk to the amount of hours and months worth of work developing the profile, the questions, making sure that we got input from families and from our scientific advisory council, from international groups, and from other experts in ectodermal dysplasia. So it's no real simple process to develop a patient registry. So that being said, thus far there are 23 syndromes reported in the registry, and we have 1,469 people that have created profiles in the registry. We're pretty proud of that number. We have a long way to go because we know that's, I don't know, probably a fourth of the people that we have on our database. And the more information that we have, as we'll talk about, the more valuable the registry data is going to be. Okay, that worked. So why did we think it was important to start a registry? Well, registries characterize the global patient community, meaning that we really wanted to characterize the ectodermal dysplasias. That being said, that's a pretty big and lofty goal because there's more than 160 different ectodermal dysplasias. So it's a big goal to characterize them individually, but that's what our hope is. We want to promote improved diagnosis and clinical care. We want to connect families to research opportunities and researchers to families. We want to provide data for preclinical and clinical research, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. We want to facilitate recruitment and, share resources. So to characterize ectodermal dysplasias, we hear things all the time, and you know what the symptoms of ectodermal dysplasias are. And we may hear things from our families, but it really doesn't have as much value to the scientific community or the clinical practitioners unless it's documented, unless we can prove that, in fact, the symptoms are related to ectodermal dysplasia. So that's why, there are so many questions on the registry, and it's important that we collect this information. Now, we've been very fortunate. Of course, we launched the registry in English because that's the language we speak, but in the first year, we also added French, German, Italian, and Spanish. And we added these languages very precisely. We used a expert translator who is a medical translator to make sure that the integrity of the translation was intact and that we didn't have any errors in the translation that would result in faulty data. We definitely would like to add more languages in the next couple of years because we know that there's a lot more languages in the world, and of course it's an international registry, and to really be comprehensive and to collect complete data, we'd like to have much more participations from our international partners. We're kind of considering using Google Translate because we've done a couple of test queries, and it's really pretty valid. It really is pretty true to the translation. So that's something we're going to consider over the next couple months to see if, because that's free and easy to use. This will give you a little bit of an idea of what syndromes are represented in the registry. Now you see that big blue block. I don't know, does my pointer show when I do this? Do you see a pointer? No? Anyway, we still have a large percentage of individuals both in our NFED database and on the registry with unknown diagnosis. So they don't know the specific syndrome. And that's another value for the registry because as you collect more information about the symptoms and the clinical manifestations, you might be able to pool those together and find diagnoses. Of course, the HED population, which is the largest on our database, is the largest represented in the registry as well. Then you see those more rare syndromes like Gold syndrome. We have a smaller representation, which is to be expected because it's a rare syndrome, although we know that we haven't reached what we need to in participation in some of these rare syndromes. And that's really important because those are the syndromes that we understand the least. So we're really hoping to make a big push this year to get more representation on all syndromes, but particularly the more rare syndromes. Showed you some a slide on who actually is participating in the registry. Interesting, we probably have a 50-50 split between male and female. That's good. We see that, I think that moms are pretty good about going out and registering younger children, and then we kind of see a drop-off as we in the older ages, and I don't know why that is. Maybe that people that are older don't have the interest in participating since they've already, they've lived their lives with ectodermal dysplasia, but we'd like to get a better representation of all ages and, of course, all syndromes. So we have a feature in the registry where we can mark whether we're missing information or registry profiles are not complete. And the purple or pink that says review completed, that means that those profiles are complete. We've looked at the data, and it seems to mesh what we would expect to see within the syndromes. When we mark something incomplete or missing reports, that might mean that somebody has answered that they, in fact, did have genetic testing, but they didn't upload the genetic testing report to the registry, which is very important to have the actual report and the actual genetic involvement. Some of those are marked as missing information. Some people may skip some questions, and we do have some profiles that the demographics have been started, but no information has been completed. So we're really, really hoping to get individuals to go and complete the entire registry and then update it yearly. So participation in a registry really shows commitment to research, to driving research and developing treatment options. Researchers look at the researcher portal, and that gives them an indication of how committed, a rare disorder is into participating in research. So if there is a lot of good information out there, then that can help them develop protocols or, contact us to get individuals who are interested in participating in a particular syndrome research. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of I'd call successes or researchers getting involved. So, you probably all have heard about the Ectodermal research protocols that, hope to take their therapeutic protein injection to clinical trials for newborns in probably early next year. This is a company that's invested money in the registry, but they have supporters, or what do you call those people that give big money to companies, investors, that have supported their research in this area. So they've actually used the registry to glean clinical data to help them develop their clinical trials. So this slide is an example of we worked together to look at the X-linked HED data, and we've prepared a poster and submitted it to the American College of Medical Genetics meeting, and it's going to be a poster presentation at this meeting. This is really important. This is a big meeting where a lot of geneticists participate and they attend, and so it's not only a huge research tool, but it's a great awareness tool, so that when these geneticists go around and look at the posters and they hear the presentations, they'll be well informed on X-linked HED. So what they did was that we looked at information specifically related to X-linked HED, family history, ages of participation, who diagnosed the syndrome, and in 50% of the cases it was a geneticist who diagnosed, general health questions, and really the key points were that they'd identified nutritional and growth problems. They identified that, and we know this, but we really have never qualified it or quantified it, that there's a lifelong problem with respiratory nasal infections. Of course, we know about the dental interventions. So they use this information, and they're developing a protocol at Family Conference to look at, to further dig into the nutritional and growth problems. So that's an example of a company who's really looking to develop a therapeutic intervention using the registry data to help them develop their protocols, and also to be able to help them talk to their investors on these are the problems associated with X-linked HED, and this is why we need to move this forward. So there is a market for this intervention. So also there's a GOLS researchers from Baylor have been looking at the information because there's a team that's doing some significant research on GOLS syndrome. With Dr. Willoughby, who is an eye researcher from England who attended family conference last year, he looked at the research. So the more that we have to show researchers, the more valuable the registry becomes. And Kyle can probably talk to a little bit about this. There is a program or project that NIH has recently embarked on called the Global Registry for Rare Disorders. NIH has dumped $1 million in this to develop infrastructure and to help organizations and foundations who do not have a registry, help them develop a basic registry. And eventually, we hope to put our de-identified data into this global registry, because what this will do is this will share de-identified patient data across the system, across rare disorders, so that researchers will have sort of a one-stop shop, so to speak, so they can look at the information and perhaps do pan-disease analysis and recruitment. It'll be much more sustainable because there will be public funds invested, and there's also a lot of private funds invested. And what the hope is that they'll look at the global registry and then be directed to more detailed information with the individual patient organization registry. So that's a really exciting project, I think, because it really shows that there is some interest at NIH and in industry for rare disorders, which has been a long time coming. So we're pretty excited about that. So really, that's all I have. I think Kelley's going to take over now and show you how to create a profile in the registry.
Yes, absolutely. So the slide that you see now is it's a screenshot of what the registry is. So I am going to pull up, I'm going to pull up the Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry, and I'm going to share a desktop. So it's going to just take me a second to activate that.
And while Kelley's doing that, there was one thing I wanted to say before she started talking about creating a profile. It's really, really important that everybody in the family who is affected creates a profile. I sometimes get emails from moms or saying, oh, I created a profile for my son, but I didn't create one for me. I'm a carrier, but I don't have any symptoms. That's really important information for us to have, because looking at different genetic involvement and where the mutation, so to speak, occurs can maybe correlate with clinical or not clinical symptoms. So all of that information is really important for us to have. And so if you complete a profile, please make sure everybody in the family has a profile completed. And then if you have other family members, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, parents, ask them to complete the registry too.
Okay. Can everybody see the Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry on their computer? Oh, I asked you to meet your lines, didn't I?
Oh. I can see it.
Okay. Cruz, I think you're on the phone. Can you see the screen of the Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry?
This is Kyle. I can see it.
Okay.
I will say it's refreshing kind of slow, though, so you might want to move kind of slowly through.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is our home screen. And I should have taken a poll first to see how many of you have created your profile. So I have created a profile already today. I went through. Of course, I have what we call a coordinator view. Mary K. Richter was still our director at the time, and so I asked to be involved in the project for a couple reasons. One is because I thought it was a really cool project, and I wanted to be involved in it. So if you want to be involved, you better ask, right? So I did, and it worked out that I was able to work with Mary on this project. And so I can see the behind the scenes. I'm the only other staff person in the office that actually sees the data that's been input by all of you. And so I review these for Mary, and then if I have a question, she'll go through and look at it, and she looks at the information a little bit more than I do, so a little bit more in detail than I do. And so I created it as if I was an individual affected by ectodermal dysplasias. So I'm going to just log in. I'm going to log in now as that person.
Ooh, that's slow.
Kelley, can I ask a quick question about the login and password for the registry?
Absolutely.
Is that something that we would have done when we first signed up to do the registry, or is that something we need to do to go to the website and create a login?
You would have, as you registered in the registry, you would have created that username and password. There is a section, once you're logged in, if you click on My Profiles, there's an option there to change password. So if you've forgotten your password, you can do it through there.
Thank you.
So Mary and Kyle or anyone else, are you seeing the screen then now that I've logged in as someone who's
Kelley Franklin?
Yes, Kelley Franklin. I used my maiden name. I didn't want to delete my other profile after we're all said and done here. So this part, this is what's going to happen as you as you register, and once you put in your contact information, there is a spot that says, I'm going to go to the screen, it says update contact information from this point. At any time, if you move or change information, you can log into your profile to update this information. And this is where you would see this information here. When you first create a username, this is the screen that you're going to get. It's your first step, sort of. So you can see I have an email address in there. I have my name, my relationship to the patient. If I'm the individual that's affected by ectodermal dysplasias, I'm going to put self. And remember, the first name, middle name, and last name is the person that's affected by ectodermal dysplasia. So if let's say that first name said Sarah, and Sarah is my daughter, your relationship to patient, I would move that, I would change that from self to parent, because I'm Sarah's parent. So we're trying to keep that information identifiable so that only for the staff, for Mary and I, so that we know who completed the profile, so we can go back to that person if we have questions. So it's basic information that we've asked you to input here, your contact information, the date of birth for the individuals who's affected by ectodermal dysplasia. We also wanted to capture some information. Maybe you got a diagnosis after you contacted the NFED, and so we don't have the diagnosis in our permanent records, but you've added it to your registry information. So this allows me, by checking yes, this allows me to take that permanent diagnosis, that title, and move that into our NFED database. And so you can see my date of birth there is the day the foundation was formed. And so then we ask for some other information, race, ethnicity, insurance information. You can share your doctor's information there. We have that program at our office. So we take that information there and we can add them to our regular database. So I'm just going to scroll through there, dentist information. You'd go to the bottom and you'd hit submit to upload all that information that you just inputted. Oh, and it's slow, my apologies. So our next step here, once you create that, and you're not going to see that on this screen, but once you've done that for the very first time, it says, hey, thanks, you've created a profile. Now we want you to log back in and we want you to answer the questions. You don't have to answer all the questions at once, but what you do need to do is page through the entire thing, because once you do that, it saves all of your information. If you stop at page 2, it's not going to save anything. So the next time you log back in, you're going to have to start all over at page 1. So even if you go to page 2 and you say, oh, I got to pick somebody up, or I got to make dinner, or I better get to work, I'm going to be late, go ahead and page all the way through so it saves that information before you log out.
And Kelley, just to be clear, that's just the first time you go through it. So at some point you have to go through the entire survey. But then once you've gone through it one time, you can always come back and update individual responses after that.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle. And from this point, we've already created someone here. And I want to add my daughter, Sarah. So all I have to do is go to the right side and add a family member. And I click on that, and it takes me through those steps again. So as Mary mentioned, the important things, answer as many questions as you can. If you leave something blank, we're going to send you an email or a phone call and say, hey, you missed this question. Can I fill it out for you? Or maybe you don't know the answer. And that's okay, too. If you don't have the answer, you can't get it, right? So that's not a problem. But we're trying to leave no stone unturned, as they say. And so answer every question you can. Upload your genetic report if you can. If you have trouble with that, just fax it to the office or email it to myself or Mary, and we can upload that for you to your profile. And then
you can also upload anything that you think is significant as well, because I know there's a Gulch researcher that's looking at chest X-ray. So if you have something that you think has had some significant information on your syndrome, you can upload that.
Absolutely. Thank you. So as far as adding information, there's that's basically, it is a big survey or a big questionnaire, so it may take you 20 to 30 minutes to get through it if you're going to sit down and do it all at once. But certainly the information is a wonderful resource for everyone. There's also an option here, Ask an Expert. You have, or likely you have, mine and Mary's email addresses, which is perfectly fine. You can submit a question to us at any time at our standard email addresses. But if you're working in the registry and uploading things or adding some information, you say, oh, I got a question. I wonder if they would like a report on my broken arm. So all you have to do is click on that Ask an Expert, and it's going to, wrong button, sorry about that. And you can submit a question that way, and then Mary or I will respond to that. The fastest way is to send it to our NFED email, but we do check this about every other day.
And I will tell you that if you email a really complicated question, maybe about dental treatment and needing information about, I'll probably just send an email saying, please email my NFED account because it's too much, and I give it to you, but because it's too much information for me to type into the registry email. And may need to give you more information than I can do through the registry email.
Absolutely. There's also a glossary, and so you can, if there's a word that you're unsure of or you can't remember, you can go to that glossary to find that. So there's some great tools and resources within the registry. So it's not only a place to collect information, it's a place to gain information as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle, and he's going to explain how to get information out of it. Now, Kyle, can you have access here?
He's going to look at the charts, too, and then show you how to explore responses so you can look for specifically what you're looking for.
So I can just say share my desktop? Is that correct, Kelley?
Yes. No, are you going to use mine? Are you going to use what I have on?
Oh, I just shared my desktop.
Okay.
Can you see mine? I'm on Explore Responses.
I can.
It's loading.
I can.
Perfect.
Okay. So as you all mentioned, and Kelley, I appreciate you going through all those steps, and I'm happy to answer questions. But what I wanted to do is just talk quickly about the types of information, because we understand that this is an effort on your part, and you're busy, and for you all to take the time out of your day, we really appreciate it. And I'll tell you, pharmaceutical companies and researchers really appreciate it, because it's really hard for them to justify investing time and effort and money into treatments for diseases when they can't even tell, how many people have it and what are their symptoms. So this is really critical to understanding disorders. So, one of the things that we feel very strongly about is if you do complete your profile and you've taken the time to give us this information, then it should also be kind of a learning tool. So we put in a couple of different ways that you can look at the information. One is under the charts menu option here at the top, and this is publicly available. So one of the things that we are trying to do is make this information, the de-identified data, in aggregate available to researchers broadly. Now, I'm on a development site, so my numbers are a little bit less than the live site, just in case you're wondering. But the charts give you a kind of a quick overview of the different types of responses from everyone that has participated in the system by disorder. So Mary went through and helped identify what are the major things, kind of at a snapshot, that people might want to see out of the registry. So that, again, is under the charts area. If you just click on the top charts, it includes all diagnoses for all patients de-identified. If you select an individual diagnosis underneath that, so in this case I selected AEC, you can see there's 26 people that responded to this one. You see how they answered those specific questions. One of the challenges with this particular registry and with ectodermal dysplasias in general is there's a lot of subtypes. So the challenge is you don't necessarily want to set up a separate patient registry for every single subtype. You'd rather have one registry that collects all the data for all the different subtypes, but then be able to look at that information by querying it and being able to filter that information so that it's useful to you. So this Explore tab here is available after you've completed your profile. These topic areas on the left-hand side are the same page topics as when you complete the profile, and the questions are in the same exact order as well. So this is should be consistent. You can look at each of the tabbed areas and see each question that was asked in the registry, and then how everyone in the registry has responded to that particular question. So that's, again, fine for looking at everybody in one shot for a particular diagnosis, but again, in this case, we have multiple different subtypes, so you're probably going to want to compare yourself or your experience potentially with others. So we've provided this link at the top. It's kind of embedded in the text here. Filter these results. So what you can do with this function is actually filter, and what we mean by that is only include people on the results that match this particular criteria. So in this case, you can filter by, for example, diagnoses. So I may just select AEC patients, for example. But I also only want to include people that are experiencing, certain attributes. So, certain cleft lip, certain hair problems. Show me everybody that has eye problems across all diagnoses, or you can pick one or two diagnoses. Dry eyes, you can really drill down and try to learn from what other people that are in a similar experience, how they have responded to their questions. So in this case, I'm just gonna say it's AEC, and I'm not a physician. I won't even try to say that one. Hydrophenosis?
Nephrosis.
So by selecting those three criteria, now you'll see at the top of the screen that I have selected only only people that have selected either this or this response to kidney bladder problems and have a diagnosis of AEC. And now I can actually look at those results again, and I'm only going to see those patients that were included in that criteria. So I can see that, the diagnosis is only those people that I selected with AEC. And again, this is demo data. This isn't live data. So do this on your production site as well, or obviously. But it really allows you to filter down, and obviously I set my filters a little too stringent, to look at that information for just those people that match that particular criteria. So in this case, I made that a little too narrow. So I'm actually going to change that filter. I'm just going to do AEC patients, for example. And now run that again. So now when I see those same test result or patient responses out of that survey, I'm only going to see those patients that are AEC patients, and you can see that it's much more now. It's 26 now. It was 2 before. It was 2 before because I included those kidney and bladder issues as well. So that's a quick overview of how you can look at these same survey results by different diagnoses, by different filters, and I hope you find this useful. If you're having a certain issue, if it's bendy fingers, and you want to understand how many other people have bendy fingers and also see how they responded to certain questions, you can do that through this particular functionality. And this is something that we're continuing to work on and update. So we are in the process of working on some additional charting and graphing functionality out of the database because we do feel really strongly that it is an investment of your time, and we really appreciate it, and we want to give you information back. So if you have, requests of, different ways of looking at this data, we're happy to hear that. I'm speaking for myself because we want to enhance this to make it the most useful for the community.
Absolutely.
I think that was a major thing I wanted to go over, Mary. Was there something else? I did want to talk about the NIH program for just a second.
Good. Yeah, I want you to talk about that because I only hit on it briefly.
So what we are doing with that NIH project is it's called the GRDR. It's Global Rare Disease Registry, and it is the Office of Rare Disease Research at the NIH that's funding this. And the objective is to turn up more of these registries, just like what Mary and the folks have done across lots of different rare disorders, but do it in a manner that allows us to collect this information into one big database that has common information across lots of rare disease indications. And the real goal of that is in rare disease, it's, part of the challenge is getting people interested in investing their time and effort into researching that particular disorder. And by aggregating lots of patient data from many different rare diseases into a single database, there may be a researcher that is researching bendy fingers, for example. Now they could go into the system and look at, oh, wow, it affects, ectodermal dysplasias patients and these 5 other disorders that I didn't even realize. So it's this ability to identify pan-disease traits and patient information that NIH program is really going after. And just to be super clear, anywhere in this system, we never share your identifying information. It's always de-identified, and it's always an aggregate. So when we send this to the NIH, it's only de-identified information. No one would ever be able to come back and find you. However, if researchers look at that database and identify that, hey, there's these 200 patients that could be qualified for this clinical trial or this particular clinical study, I'd really like to contact those people and offer them that. They have to go through the Ectodermal Dysplasias Registry, and they would contact Kelley, and then Kelley would reach out to you and let you know of the availability of those studies that you may be interested in. So just wanted to talk about patient privacy, and we take security very seriously. Everything is on very secure servers, and it's, HIPAA compliant and all that good stuff. So just to let you know that security is always top of the list with us.
And there are some symptoms across various rare disorders that there might be a key that would answer the question for more than one disorder. That's why it's so important to combine all this data to say, oh, I don't know, alopecia and ectodermal dysplasia, is there any treatment that would work for both pools of patients?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. We have about 15 minutes left, so I would like to open the call up to questions. So if you have a question, we can answer your questions, or you can ask your questions one of two ways. You can type it into the chat message area on the bottom of your screen, or you can take your phone off mute, which is *7, or your unmute line to ask your question.
I do have one other thing to say. That because at the NFED we have very strict processes and reviews, that if a researcher contacts me and is interested in looking at a particular population or has a particular proposal or got the information from the global registry or our registry, we take this very seriously. So we have a council of scientific advisors that reviews everything to make sure that if I contact you about a research protocol or ask you if you want to participate in a project, that you can be sure that it's been gleaned by our experts and they say this is valid research. This is something that you can share with our members. So that we're not just getting anything and saying, oh, do you want to participate in this? We take this very seriously. We take the confidentiality aspect very seriously, but we also, our council reviews everything to make sure that if I'm going to send you an email, you can be sure that it's already been reviewed by our council and that it's a valid effort.
Thank you, Mary. Sandra, you have your hand raised, I see, on our web component. Do you have a question?
No, I'm okay, thank you. I was just trying to figure out how this whole thing works, so.
Okay, the webinar or the registry?
Well, the webinar, but I've got that figured out. And the registry, can you find other folks by using this, or is it just to link in our own information?
You as the individual completing the profile will never be able to see anyone else's names or contact information. If you want to find people that are affected by ectodermal dysplasias in your area or your age or by syndrome, you can send me an email at the office and we can get that information for you.
Okay, wonderful. I was just curious about that. So
yeah.
I see you have a point of contact for each of the different states, so that's, I guess, another way to do that as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Richard, do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, comment too. I have enjoyed this presentation, very informative and educational, and I thank you for your input. Another question I have has also to do with access to the registry, and I can kind of give an example here. Let's say that one of my doctors or dentists is curious about the information that's available here. Can they access this database, or do they have to be a research?
Well, that's a really easy question to answer. We have this patient registry database, but we also have a research portal. It's called Research Portal, but it's really a research clinician portal that your doctor could just send a request to have access to information, and I look at it and see, oh, he's a clinician that's treating a patient with ectodermal dysplasia, or he's a researcher that needs access to GOLS information or EEC information, and then I approve it, and then he gets an email saying that he has access and he can log on to the research portal, which gives him access to all the information.
And it's all de-identified.
Exactly. So the researcher or the clinician can't go in and say, oh, Richard has blah, 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 and the symptom. He will just see, oh, so maybe your treating clinician knows that you have a lot of problems with dry skin. I'm just making that up. And then he could say, oh, well, most of the patients that are affected by this syndrome also have this, or so that gives him that's a lot of value for a clinician.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking in terms of if my doctor knows a lot about my symptoms and the treatments that he's done, had the ability to go to this registry and see, for somebody with this same syndrome and symptoms, what other kinds of symptoms maybe that we haven't explored, might he be interested in.
And really, to be honest, our goal is to add other portals to the registry as we get funding and as we grow this current registry, and so that we may have a clinician portal where they actually enter information, because then it's not patient-identified information, it's documented clinician information, which has a lot of strength in itself.
Yeah, that would be valuable. So anyway, it sounds like about any doctor, dentist, or clinician researcher, it's just a matter of contacting NFED and.
No, there's a link on. I don't know if you can show it, Kelley, where it says Research Portal, and then it says, I don't know. They can
there's a link on the home page that says.
But there's a link on the home page that says Research Portal. They click on that, and it tells you how to do it.
Okay, and that's the NFED homepage you're referring to?
No, it's the registry homepage.
Registry homepage. Well, I mean, better get that straight. So to access this, what is the website that we go to for the registry?
We have it, if you go to our website, there is a link from that. But I'm going to give you the cheat sheet method, okay? There's no www, so you don't use that. It is nfed.patientcrossroads.org.
That's all spelled out, no periods in between, Patient Crossroads?
Correct. All one string.
And then what after Patient Crossroads?
.org.
At .org. Dot. What comes after .org?
That's
it's .org. So it's nfed.patientcrossroads.org. .org.
Oh, .org. Okay.
.com. Mm-hmm.
.org. And that was.
Oh, there. Kelley posted it in the chat message I saw.
Okay. There's no @ in the string at all. Okay.
No. No.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So either way, if you lose that address there, you can go from our website and just look for the name Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry. If you click on that, it'll take you right to it.
So there is a link on the NFED homepage.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
The link for the research portal is on the Ectodermal Dysplasias International Registry page.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Erin submitted a question. She says, we haven't been to the doctor in many years and are not sure the accurate diagnosis. That's okay. We still would like you to complete a profile. You can check the diagnosis as unknown. And, at some point we are hoping that we'll have someone, one of our goals is to have someone review all of those records and perhaps be in contact with the individual and come up with a diagnosis, or at least a suspected diagnosis.
Kind of steer, your provider into diagnosis.
Evaluate further. Did I say that right, Mary?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Kelley?
Yes.
This is Marcy Barbet. I have another question. I think I heard you say that you can upload documents such as diagnosis, the original diagnosis or other documents. Those documents typically have the person's name in them, so who would have access to those documents?
Mary and I.
Just the two of you. That wouldn't be part of anything that any of the researchers would be able to see?
The researchers have no access to any names, location, nothing identifying.
But
what happens is the researchers can look at the data, and then if they do have a project or a proposal or some questions, and they would, if they wanted to reach potential patients, like I said, we'd had their proposal reviewed by our Scientific Advisory Council, and then I would be contacting you saying, Dr. blah, blah, blah at the University of Baylor is doing GOLDS research or EEC research or IP research. And if you're and I send you the information. If you're interested in participating, contact the researcher. But they have no information. And
I understand that, but I guess what I'm wondering is what's the purpose of uploading these documents? What do you and Kelley do with the documents?
Well, we verify the genetic diagnosis. So if we see the genetic report and we look at how maybe you entered into the box your genetic involvement, I make sure that it's entered in correctly. If perhaps, and this is another example, there is a GOLDS researcher that's looking at chest x-rays to see if the gene responsible for GOLDS also causes some clavicle malformation. So if I had if I had some chest x-rays, I would look at them and say these patients may, qualify, or even growth information. If we're looking at identifying growth and nutritional issues in various syndromes, growth grids or growth information, I might say, there's 20 patients affected by EEC that have significant growth delays. This might be a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
No.
Well, I know before we close that Kyle expressed this, but we really do realize that it's a huge commitment of your time to complete surveys, to do registry profiles, and to invest the time and energy to complete these for multiple family members. But just know that we greatly appreciate it, and we sincerely believe and know that this will help advance research in the various ectodermal dysplasias, and we're very grateful. We don't take your time commitment minimally. We appreciate it, and we want you to know that. And we are very hopeful that in this year that we will really grow these numbers. And for anybody who hasn't completed the profile, they've just kind of started, we're really hopeful that they'll go out and complete the profile, because there's so much power in this information. So I appreciate it, and I thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for joining us tonight. If you think of other questions that you have, please feel free to send me an email, Kelley, Kelley, @nfed.org, and I'll just broadcast that out to you. And then we'll get your questions answered. If I can't answer it, certainly Mary will be able to, and we'll get that response to you. It's so nice to have you all with us tonight on this webinar. This is our second webinar for the year. I'm starting to feel we're closer to becoming pros at it. Always something new to learn with technology, which is fun. So stay tuned. There will be a recording of our call, and I'll have to clean that up some, and then it'll be available for people to listen to it and to see the slides as well. You can also You'll receive an email later this week. You can download the slides that we saw tonight. You can download them from the reminder that was sent today or this morning, as well as from an email that you'll get with a link to the recording as well as the slides later this week, early next week. And other than that, I encourage you to look at our webinar schedule for the remainder of the year and join us on those upcoming webinars. Thank you all so much. And Kyle, thank you for joining us tonight. It was great to have you with us.
Sure, anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.